I want to start with a scenario that I think is going to be painfully familiar to you.
Okay.
You're sitting on your couch, you've finally carved out maybe 2 hours of free time, and you decide you're going to watch a movie.
The classic modern paralysis. I know where this is going.
Exactly. You open Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and you just start scrolling.
Hmm?
You look at the trending now list, check the critics' picks, you watch a
Like,
trailer,
then another trailer. Check Rotten Tomatoes.
and before you know it, 45 minutes have passed, you're mentally exhausted, and you just end up rewatching The Office for the 100th time.
Because choosing felt like too much work. We have all been there.
Right. And usually we beat ourselves up about it. We think, why can't I just pick something? Why am I being so indecisive? But the source material we're covering today suggests this isn't some personal failure. It's actually a battle between two completely different operating systems running in your brain.
That's a great way to frame it. We're looking at a really dense, fascinating lecture series on behavioral economics, specifically Lesson 4 titled The Myth of Rational Choice.
Okay.
And the core argument here is that for decades, economists built their entire worldview on, well, maybe lie is too strong. Let's call it a convenient fiction.
This is that homo economicus concept, right? The
Yeah.
idea that humans are these, rational agents.
Exactly. For a long time, economic models just assumed that every person acting in a market was a rational agent. In the notes, this archetype is personified as Sean.
I have to say, reading the description of Sean in the source material, he sounds like the most insufferable person to ever exist.
He really does.
So let's paint a picture of Sean. Sean is the robot. He has access to all available information. He processes it without any bias. He has clear, consistent preferences.
And most importantly, he always acts to maximize his own utility.
So if he spends $1, it's because he has calculated that he's getting exactly $1.01 worth of joy back.
Right. Sean doesn't impulse buy. Sean doesn't eat cake when he's on a diet just because he's sad.
He doesn't donate to charity because the photo of the puppy looked cute.
No, he donates because he's calculated the social return on investment.
And then standing in the other corner of the ring, we have Annie.
Yes, Annie. Annie is really the protagonist of our deep dive today. She represents what's called bounded rationality.
So she's us. She's the human.
She's us. She's smart, she's capable, but she's also tired. She's influenced by clever marketing, she cares about fairness, she holds grudges, and sometimes, she just wants the cake because it's Tuesday.
The core tension here is that most of us think we should be Sean, but we're biologically wired to be Annie. And the source material points out that we tend to view Annie's behavior as mistakes. We say, oh, I was being irrational.
Right.
But I want to challenge that. Is it really irrational to not want to do a math problem every single time you buy coffee?
That is the pivotal question. The economist Herbert Simon, who really pioneered this idea, he argued that we aren't irrational in the sense that we're crazy. We're satisficers.
Satisficers.
We don't look for the absolute best option because finding it takes way too much time and energy. We look for the option that's just good enough to meet our needs so we can move on with our lives.
But the problem, and this is where it gets interesting, is that because we use these shortcuts, these good enough strategies, we become predictable.
Yes, there are specific glitches in the Annie software that retailers and markets can exploit.
And the notes break this down into 3 main glitches, right?
Precisely. There's the trap of how we perceive price, the trap of how we perceive loss, and the trap of how we perceive choice.
Okay, let's start with the price trap, the anchoring effect. I feel like most people have heard of this one, but the reading goes into the mechanics of why it happens, and it's weirder than I thought.
It's deeply weird. The issue is that the human brain has no internal value meter. If I hold up a designer handbag and ask you, how many units of pleasure will this give you? You have no idea.
Right, I can't look at leather and stitching and objectively say, this is worth $500.
Exactly. So because you can't measure value in a vacuum, your brain desperately looks for something to compare it to. It grasps for a reference point, and that is the anchor.
So in the case study with Annie, she walks into a store and sees a bag. The tag says $2,000, but it's crossed out, and the sale price is $500.
Okay. Now, if Sean walked in, he would look at the bag and ask, is the utility of this bag worth $500 to me? The original price is irrelevant data. It's just noise.
He just ignores it.
Yeah.
But Annie sees the $2,000 first. That is the anchor.
Uh-huh.
So now the question in her brain isn't, is this bag worth $500? The question is $500 a good deal compared to $2,000?
And the answer to that is an overwhelming yes. So she feels this rush of pleasure. She feels like she just won $1,500.
Which is insane when you say it out loud. She
Ah.
spent $500. She didn't win anything. But I do this all the time. If I buy a shirt that was $100 and is marked down to 50, I'll tell my partner, look, I saved $50.
And if you're Sean, you would reply, no, you spent $50. But here's the deeper mechanism the source highlights. Something called arbitrary coherence.
Okay, unpack that for me.
It means that the initial anchor can be completely random. But once it's set, we act logically relative to that random number.
What do you mean random?
I mean, they've done studies where they asked people to write down the last 2 digits of their social security number and then bid on a bottle of wine. People with higher digits bid higher.
Wait, seriously? Just writing down a number makes you willing to pay more?
Yes. Because the brain is so desperate for a clue about value that it latches on to the most recent number it processed. So when Annie sees that $2,000 price tag, it doesn't matter if the store just made that number up.
It doesn't matter if the bag never actually sold for that price.
Never. The number has entered her cognitive stream, and now everything is judged relative to it.
So we're not just suckers for a deal. We are cognitively incapable of ignoring the context.
We are context-dependent machines. Sean judges value by absolute metrics. Annie judges value by relative metrics. And retailers know that if they can control the context, the was price, they can control Annie's decision.
That makes the sales section of any website feel a lot more predatory.
It's a framing effect, usually. But let's pivot to the second glitch, because while anchoring gets us to spend money, this next one keeps us from making it.
Or at least from stopping the bleeding.
Exactly. Loss aversion and the sunk cost fallacy. This is where the source uses the stock market example.
And this all comes down to how we process pain versus pleasure, right?
Yes. The stat in the notes is just incredible. The pain of losing $100 is roughly twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining $100.
Wow.
Think about the evolutionary logic there. If you're a hunter-gatherer, finding extra berries is nice, it's a bonus. But losing your day's food supply, that's an existential threat.
So we are hardwired to over-index on negative outcomes.
We protect what we have much more fiercely than we pursue what we don't.
Okay, so let's look at Annie's portfolio. She bought a stock at $100 a share. It has crashed to 50. The company is failing. All the news is bad.
Now, Sean, our robot, looks at this dispassionately. He asks one single question. If I had $50 cash right now, would I buy this stock?
And if the answer is no, he sells it immediately, takes the $50 and puts it into something better.
Simple. Clean. But Annie doesn't do that. Annie holds on. Why?
The notes say it's about the realization of the loss. As long as she holds the stock, the loss is just. It's on paper. It's theoretical.
There's this magical thinking that it might come back.
But the moment she hits the sell button, the loss becomes real. It's final.
And that sell button is an admission of failure. It's an ego blow. This is the sunk cost fallacy. We throw good money or good time after bad.
Simply because we can't bear to say, I was wrong.
We can't close the account, and this applies to so much more than stocks.
Oh, totally. I see this in projects at work. You spend 6 months on something, it's clearly not working, but you keep grinding because we've already come this far.
That's the endowment effect kicking in, too. Once we own something, a stock, a project, even an old sweater, we value it more highly because it's ours.
So Annie is holding on to this feeling stock not because she thinks it's a good investment,
No.
but because she's using it to protect her own feelings. She is paying $50 the opportunity cost of not moving that money to avoid the pain of regret.
That is a brutal but a very accurate way to put it. She is purchasing emotional insulation at a financial cost.
Which brings us to the final and I think the most relatable glitch. We've talked about buying and holding. Now let's talk about choosing.
The paradox of choice.
The toothpaste style.
The toothpaste aisle.
In the case study, Annie stands in front of a shelf with 50 different options. You have tartar control, whitening, enamel repair, charcoal, herbal, mint, spearmint. It's just a wall of choice.
And Sean would handle this easily, right?
Yeah.
Sean has his utility function. He knows exactly what he wants, say highest fluoride content per dollar. He scans the data, grabs the tube, and leaves.
But Annie gets stuck. She spends 40 minutes reading labels.
Yeah.
And the source material says that when she finally picks one, she's less happy than if there had only been 3 options to begin with.
This is the counterintuitive part, isn't it? We assume more choice equals more freedom, and more freedom equals more happiness.
But for Annie, 50 options creates 2 huge problems. First, the cognitive load. Just comparing 50 items is exhausting.
Decision fatigue. It's a real thing. It drains the battery.
But the second problem is what the notes call opportunity cost regret. If there are only 2 toothpastes and you pick A, and it's okay, you're fine. But if there are 50 and you pick one, you go home thinking, what if the charcoal one was better? What if the whitening one worked faster?
You are haunted by the 49 ghosts of the toothpaste you didn't buy.
Yes. The bar for satisfaction just skyrockets. With 50 options, you expect one of them to be perfect. So anything less feels like a failure.
A disappointment.
But here's where I want to push back on the Sean model a bit. The notes frame Sean as the rational ideal. But if Sean is truly rational, doesn't he value his time?
That is a fantastic point.
Because if Sean spends even 5 minutes analyzing toothpaste to get a 1% improvement in oral hygiene, hasn't he technically wasted his time? The cost of the search outweighs the benefit.
You've hit on the great irony of the Homo economicus model. If you try to be perfectly rational about every single decision, calculating every variable, weighing every pro and con, you effectively become paralyzed.
The computational cost is too high.
It's way too high. So, in a weird way, isn't Annie's laziness, her shortcut to just grab the brand she recognizes, actually the more efficient strategy?
In the real world, it has to be.
Yes. It brings us back to Herbert Simon. He argued that satisficing, just picking the first option that meets your minimum criteria, is the only rational way to survive in a complex world.
If you tried to maximize every decision like Sean.
You'd starve to death in the grocery store aisle trying to pick the optimal cereal.
So Sean is efficient in a model, but he's actually dysfunctional in reality.
He is. He lacks the ability to filter out the noise. Annie's brain, with all its biases and shortcuts, is designed to filter. She ignores the 50 other toothpastes, not because she's stupid, but because her brain knows the difference between them is negligible.
But, and this is a big but, those same filters are what make her buy the fake sale bag and hold the bad stock.
Correct. The same mechanism that saves us time in the toothpaste aisle, which is habit and heuristics, it blinds us in the stock market and the department store. It's a double-edged sword.
So what's the takeaway for you, the listener, here? We've kind of bashed Annie for being emotional, but we've also exposed Sean as being a paralyzed robot. Where does that leave us?
I think it leaves us with the need for what you could call targeted rationality. We can't be Sean all the time. It's impossible, and frankly, it's miserable.
You shouldn't try to run a cost-benefit analysis on which ice cream flavor to eat.
No. Just be Annie. Enjoy the ice cream, but save the processing power for the big stuff.
When the stakes are high.
Exactly. When you're buying a house, negotiating a salary, planning retirement, that's when you need to manually override the Annie system. You need to stop and ask, wait, am I anchoring on this first offer? Am I holding this investment because of sunk costs?
It's like we have a little inner Sean that we keep locked in the basement, and we only bring him out when we need to do math.
That's a good analogy. You need to invite Sean to the meeting when you're signing a contract, but you absolutely do not want to let him drive the car every day.
I really like that. It's about self-awareness. Recognizing that the sales sticker is just a hack on your operating system doesn't mean you can't buy the bag. But at least you know why you're buying it.
And maybe, just maybe, giving yourself a break when you doom scroll on Netflix. It's not a character flaw. It's just your brain trying to manage a world it wasn't built for.
I'm going to choose to believe that's true so I can sleep better tonight.
A rational choice.
Thank you so much for walking us through this. This really changed how I look at my credit card bill.
Happy to do it. Just remember, watch out for the anchors.
We will catch you on the next deep dive. Thanks for listening.